The Phoenix Suns agreed on a blockbuster trade, sending Kevin Durant to Houston for Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the number 10 pick in this year's draft, and 5 second-round picks. The Rockets are one of Durant's preferred landing spots. He learned of this trade while he was on the stage at Fanatics Fest yesterday. This was surreal. It all actually happened. And then he spoke about it with Kay Adams.
You know, when people can just hang your career in a balance like that and just choose what they want to do with your careers and no record feeling, but being able to kind of dictate what you want to do and then being with a team that values you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Kevin, people are going to hold on to that dictate what you want to do. Did you have a hand in this?
Most definitely. Yeah. I mean, they asked me where I wanted to go. Some of my destinations, I gave them to them, and here we are.
You know, all the leverage. It was a surreal thing, though, right? Like, I mean, you're in the middle of your day, you're getting ready for Game 7, and then all of a sudden, like, I start getting notes, like, KD got you. There's no way in the world that happened on the day of Game 7, and then you start to realize, oh my God, it happened while he's on the stage. Right, this is the moment. Yeah. Like, literally, the news breaks while he's sitting up there, and all these people are documenting it and whatever. So, Wendy, the circumstances are what they are. The bottom line of it is Kevin Durant is a Houston Rocket.
Yeah, I think what he said there in that interview was very important. I think the Warriors could have traded for him last February. He said, I don't want to go, and the Warriors backed off. I think last week, the Timberwolves could have traded for him. He said he didn't want to go, the Timberwolves backed off. And I think the Suns would have gotten better returns in both of those trades. But he had agency. He used that leverage. He ends up going to Houston. You say, why does Houston do this deal? You want to rank the Houston young players and their draft capital, you're ranking 6, 7 names and lists before you get to Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks and the number 10 pick. And I understand the number 10 pick, it's a lottery pick, it's quality. But the Rockets didn't feel that they were going to get a player in this draft that was materially going to help them. And they end up landing an offensive juggernaut, which is exactly what they needed.
Right, exactly what they needed.
Go ahead, Keith.
No, I just, you know, a little bit more respect on Jalen's name. I don't think he was a 6'7" prospect.
But no, seriously, no. But lift it, Keith. Lift it.
I mean,
no, but
I think
that's
they
your
were ready
opinion.
to
But I
move
don't
on.
think that's their
this
opinion.
is just going by what I've seen.
Yeah, but they want to move off his contract.
They've been trying to trade him. They were trying to move him.
Well, there's your answer. They moved a guy that they wanted to trade.
Yeah,
for Kevin Durant.
Let's not argue over this part of it.
Just because they moved him, don't mean that he was the 6 or 7 best, the lowest.
But you got to get some talent for a great
6 or 7 value.
I think what they gave up for him stunned me. Or more to the point, what Phoenix got for him at this stage of his career. I did an essay on this last week, people. If you're talking about Kevin Durant as a diminished player, you're just not paying attention. It's not true. Kevin Durant, in his right now, there is one player in history to have 3 consecutive seasons scoring 25 points a game on 50-40 shooting. It's Kevin Durant, and that streak is active. He's done it the last 3 years, and I gave you numbers that demonstrate that his defense has been well above average. He's got blocks and steals, and when he played, his team was over 500 this year. When he didn't, they were 3-17. Kevin Durant, like Steph, and like LeBron, has not really diminished that much. I think that the Rockets got him for, comparatively speaking, a song, and it is an unbelievably good trade for them.
I think it puts them right there with OKC to win the Western Conference to get to the NBA Finals. I mean, look, you're talking about a guy that hasn't averaged under 25 points since his rookie year. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a guy who hasn't shot under 50% since 2011. Like, think about that. I mean, those numbers are staggering, right? And the fact that now you combine him with Şengün, with the level of which they play, I also think Ime Udoka is probably the biggest winner walking away from this with the culture he's been able to create in Houston.
Extension.
And the physical, well, the extension, the timing of that, right? And with other jobs up in the air in New York, potentially, other teams calling. But also, guys, the physicality that Houston plays with. If there's one thing we learned in these playoffs, you need physical pieces.
Well, they lost one.
Well, they lost one in Dillon Brooks. I think that's a major loss. That's an underrated loss. But they still have all the pieces there.
He said it there. They asked me where I wanted to go. So he had control. They asked me where I wanted to go. They gave him that control. They gave him that respect, which he earned and he deserved. And all the numbers you say, Greeny, tell you this is still one of the great players in the game. But does it feel like a blockbuster? Does it feel like a blockbuster?
Yes, it does.
How can it feel like a blockbuster when
because of the numbers that we just spoke about?
When the number 2 seed stayed the number 2 seed.
Yeah, but we all thought that Houston was punching above their weight. Like everybody, most of the people I've talked to in NBA circles, when we went to the playoffs, everybody's like, oh yeah, we want to target Houston because we feel like they're young, they're inexperienced.
Okay.
They won't feel that way anymore.
No, they do not.
There were
But they feel
playoff
very
games
different.
where they didn't play Jalen Green down the stretch of the game. Down the stretch of a playoff game next year, the ball's going to be in Durant's
course.
hands. And
They
the
got a finisher.
real thing about this from Phoenix's standpoint, when they traded for Durant, it was a closed market. Durant went to the Nets and said, I only want to be a Phoenix Sun. And yet, they paid 4 picks, 3 swaps, really good young players. Again, we have a closed market. Durant's saying, I only want to go to Miami, Houston, or San Antonio. But they didn't get a premium back. So they paid a premium in a closed market and sold in a closed market.
That's what I meant
low.
by it doesn't feel like a blockbuster.
And part of the story, Keith, is going to be about the teams that didn't get him. And I saw a lot of reaction yesterday on social, particularly about the Miami Heat, which was one of the 3 teams that KD had on his list. And they seemed not willing to part with some players. What did you think of that, Keith?
It's disappointing to me. I remember Wendy said earlier, obviously he has to agree to go to Miami, and they were one of the teams, right? They tried to get him at the deadline, but for an underwhelming package, right? And no disrespect to the players that was involved that Phoenix wanted, but the package wasn't, like Miami has to give that up. Not only like they lost Jimmy Butler, but a chance to get a guy like Kevin Durant with the way the East is going to look in the next couple of years. Pairing him with a Bam Adebayo and a Tyler Herro, and not really losing a lot of core pieces, right? You lose Jaime Jaquez, you lose Hayward Smith and Jokic. But what Miami does is they grow their players, so it don't really matter what they would have lost, right? Because they're a team that will get G League players and grow them. They're a team that will get that has homegrown players. So I'm really disappointed in Miami for not making this happen, especially, like I said, with the loss of Jimmy Butler, like for that package. And again, no disrespect to those players, but for that package, they have to get this done.
Keith, think about this though. The 2 teams that have supposedly, Miami not going all in on all their assets for Kevin Durant, and the New York Knicks who said, hey, we're not interested. There's still this guy in Milwaukee that just because he said in Brazil that, hey, I hope I can win a championship with the Bucks. Everybody thinks he's going to be with the Bucks. And think about Miami holding on to those assets to be all in on the Giannis spree.
And
same with New York.
And
San Antonio.
Is it all in?
I mean, if you weren't all in on Kevin Durant, you better be all in on Giannis.
So let's make sure we're all clear.
I'm saying for Miami.
Right.
I'm saying for Miami too.
Is Miami, those pieces all in?
Yeah.
Is that an all-in thing?
So,
or you're not losing Bam Adebayo or Tyler Herro?
I would just say that the Heat had an opportunity to put a better package on the table at the trade deadline and this last week and elected not to. So let's look at their actions over words.
I mean, that's the Miami Heat way.
Their actions
That's what they think. But I'm saying as a player and watching it, like I'm not going to not give a chance not to take Kevin Durant for that package. That's my whole thing. That package of players with the 20th pick for a Hall of Famer and a guy that averaged 25 points a game with an up-in-the-air East, I'm doing that every day of the week.
And what do those actions tell
Twice
us?
on Sundays.
Yep. But what do those actions
That
tell us?
Miami
Those
Heat like to do stuff a certain way.
Those actions
That's
tell
what
us
it
they're
tells
waiting
you,
for
the same
something.
thing always
They're
is.
waiting for something else. They're waiting for something else.
And so, wait a minute. Exactly right. Thank you. You beat me to it.
I did it for him.
Put those Giannis fingers in the air. Okay, so we'll have to wait and see if that winds up happening. Look, and maybe this is tomorrow's topic. The East feels as wide open for the worst of all possible reasons. I mean, Jason Tatum is not going to play, and Damian Lillard is not going to play, and Tyrese Halliburton is not going to play. That's 3 superstars that go down with devastating injuries in these playoffs. What does that mean for the Miamis, for the Knicks, for the other teams in the Eastern Conference? We'll talk about it. A lot of this will get reshaped between now and Wednesday and the NBA draft. Hold on. Houston, you're going to be a problem. Just hours before Game 7, the Suns agreed on a trade to send Kevin Durant to the Rockets for Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the 10th pick in this year's draft, and 5 second-round picks. The Rockets were one of the places on KD's list. He learned about the trade in a surreal moment while on the stage at Fanatics Fest yesterday. It was all super weird, but one way or another, he winds up a Houston Rocket. And take a look at this. The reaction has been extraordinary at ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Before the trade, the Rockets were 18-1 to win the championship. It then moved to plus 850. It has now moved to plus 800. So if you don't speak gambling, that means 8-1. They're tied with the Cavaliers for the second shortest odds in the entire NBA, behind only OKC. And so, if only we had someone who reps Houston every chance she gets sitting on our set here. Janae, what does KD plus the Rockets equal?
I know there's some ambivalence because people are wondering, why do we have this haul of a trade or acquiring him for someone that's 36 about to be 37? I'm not so worried, and when you can correct me on the second round picks, the 5. I know it's number 10 pick in this 2025 draft. I'm not so worried about that. Because what you're getting is a player that is so perfectly tailored to your needs and your problems as Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, we all know the last 3 seasons with Phoenix, averaged 27 and shot 40% from 3. But I don't know if people understand that he shot 49% on jumpers, which was best in the NBA, 53% on mid-range, best in the NBA. Do you know where the Rockets rank in that category? 27th and 24th, respectively. 22nd in half-court offense. Horrible. Now we can finally pass this man the ball and let him cook. And the most important part is that you retain the most important pieces of your core. Alperen Şengün, Jabari Smith Jr., even shocked that Reed Shepherd was able to be in there. And of course, Amen Thompson, my favorite player who I said was untouchable. You keep the main core. There's some synergy with Ime Udoka from Brooklyn Nets. And then now you add one of the generational players who I believe, if you're saying that KD ain't got it, then you haven't been watching hoops. That man wakes up, eats, breathes, sleeps, drinks, everything, water, of course. Basketball. And I do believe culturally he will fit because you funny. You funny. You know the thing.
It's not what I hear, but I understand the point that you're making.
for elevated play.
Listen, no one is more on record than I am as saying that this guy has lost almost nothing from his absolute peak in the same way that Steph and LeBron haven't. And so, Markeith, I ask you that question. If the Thunder, let's give the Thunder their respect. They're the defending champs and they're the team to beat next year. Are the Rockets their biggest threat with Kevin Durant?
I wouldn't say necessarily just yet, right? But to be able to add Kevin Durant and not lose none of your core pieces, what was understood earlier, because you already wanted to get off of Green. To lose none of that at a time like Kevin Durant, I definitely think you contenders, right? But we just have to wait and see how it looks. We know he's getting 25 a game, so we know what that's going to look like. But just the pieces around him, how they integrate everybody together. You know, adding a guy like Kevin Durant with a Şengün with a bunch of pieces that can defend. I think they need to go out and get another point guard. But other than that, I think they put themselves in prime position to compete with any team in the West by adding Durant.
Keith, I would go out. I would get Tyus Jones. I think Tyus Jones could be a great additional piece to this team that could be additive. I also would say this is the first time that KD hasn't gone to like a superstar team. Now, look, we know about Şengün. We know about Fred VanVleet. I think we have a lot of respect for them. But also, I think there are going to be challenges and learning curves for him from a scoring perspective, because when he was in Golden State playing alongside Steph, or OKC with Russ, James, Brooklyn with Kyrie, even Devin Booker. But I trust in Ime Udoka. And I think that was the biggest hit that nobody really talks about throughout the NBA season. The Boston Celtics letting go of Ime Udoka, and then Tillman Fertitta picking him up. He's going to be the guy to unlock this team. And I think he's a special addition as well as KD.
Alan, Horace Greeley once famously said, "Go west, young man." If I were to have advised Kevin Durant, I would have said, "Go east." For crying out loud. The fact that he stays in the jam-packed West is fascinating. The Eastern Conference, where, unfortunately, Damian Lillard is down, Jason Tatum is down, and Tyrese Halliburton is down, feels ridiculously wide open right now.
Yeah, usually when a player this caliber goes from one team to another, you say that team just became a championship contender. Really, Houston was a 2 seed. They're still a 2 seed, right? If you think about it, the defending champs are the 1 seed. If he moved to any team in the East, it immediately skyrockets that team. But how many teams in the East were that interested in him?
Why weren't the Knicks?
It was going to blow up the roster. It was one of those moves that it would cost you too many pieces to blow up a roster that you already did. You gave up 2 for 1 for Towns a year ago. You weren't going to do it again. They wanted some continuity. But I'll tell you what, there was a lot of interest. There certainly was interest. It's the cost that I think was what kept the Knicks out of it, and probably Miami as well.
Windman, take us through. You were in the arena yesterday. You're talking to the whole league. What was the reaction to the KD trade?
Yeah, I think they were so focused on Game 7, I didn't hear Durant's name once in the arena last night from the players or any of the teams. But I think the key thing here is Kevin Durant was able to use his agency as of 1 year left on his contract. in the winter, the Warriors were ready to bring him back. They were on the verge of an agreement, and Durant found out about it and said no, and the Warriors backed off. Again, here, Minnesota was putting together a package. I'm not sure how close they were, but they were moving down the path to acquiring Kevin Durant a week or so ago. Durant made it clear, I don't want to go there. They backed off. And Houston was able to get Durant without giving up its most prized assets. And so that's what's so interesting about this. Durant was able to get what he wanted and go to a team that didn't have to gut itself to get him. The Suns, for better or worse, very badly damaged the core of their team to get Kevin Durant. He did not want that to happen again. He is now in a position where they can grow around these players. He is exactly what they need. And if they see another piece they can go after, they have the ammunition to do so.
This was one of the two huge shoes we were waiting to drop, right, in this offseason. The other is Giannis. Now, he made some comments a few weeks ago that people, in some respects, took to mean he's not planning on going anywhere. Do we still feel that way? Like, how do we feel like that's going to fall?
Giannis is not asked for a trade. He is not available for a trade. Today is June 23rd. These are facts that I can say. I can't speak to what's going to happen on August 23rd, but I would say that the Bucks are in a challenging position to restructure that team and increase their ability to compete, although there are injuries in the East.
And Wendy, off that comment, in Giannis's comment, I hope to win a championship with the Bucks. He wants to win a championship. So are you adding the right pieces? Are you going to go over the salary cap? What's that roster look like? We'll find that out very, very soon.
The Bucks have spent in luxury taxes and salaries almost $1 billion over the last 7 or 8 seasons.
It costs to be associated with trying to compete for a championship now.
Tens of millions of dollars. The question is, can they keep going? And will Giannis be? Well, when we get to July 15th and they've done their moves, how will Giannis feel? I don't know the answer to that question.
Same thing with Phoenix. Like, Phoenix was close 2021. Like, remember, like, when they were playing against the Bucks, they were up 2-0 with CP3 and Devin Booker. And like, hey, we need to make an addition, get over the hump. Manashebe has been paying. There's been roster moves, coaching moves. At some point, you're like, hey, I don't want to push up against this second apron. I have to think long term for my franchise.
The question, though, that remains, Wendy, is that how long do other teams wait on the Giannis thing, and how much does that hold up other type
Longer
of
than now.
but the second part of the question is, how much does it hold up other types of movement that could happen in the meantime?
I'm not sure it's going to hold anything up, but I definitely think that, look, there's two challenges to acquiring Durant. One, he makes $53 million. So to put that together, you're going to have to put big pieces into it. Houston had salaries to make it happen. The other thing is there's the unknown. And if you're going to go all in with your assets, you go all in for a 37-year-old when there's an unknown out there. It doesn't just mean Giannis. There will always be other things that could pop up as well.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on all of this. But the offseason is now officially upon us, and there are a lot of moves to come. While I've got Shanae here.
How's it going, everybody? Villa Sports Network here. Just want to thank you guys for your support on the channel. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you all enjoyed it. I also want to kind of remind you to don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment on the video if you like as well. But regardless of the fact, thank you again for your support, and hope to see you on the next video.